I think we can get started. So thank you everyone and welcome to the CBI Pavilion booth. My name is Tina Mylly and I work for the Connecting Business Initiative, or CBI. We hosted 2 of these sessions yesterday, but to accommodate for different time zones, we thought we would do one more. So thank you for being here now. This is the last time we're presenting CBI as such, but there are other sessions to follow later today, so we hope you will be able to join those. If you have any questions or comments, you can type them in the booth chat box on the right-hand side. And when I'm done with the PowerPoint, I will try to take a look at the questions that have come in and address those to the best of my abilities. Let's get started. As the COVID-19 pandemic takes its toll on the health of people, local communities, and the global economy, it is clear that no one actor can address the breadth of the crisis by themselves. Private sector engagement in disaster management, in collaboration, and in coordination with governments, the UN system, the civil society, and others is absolutely critical. We have discussed over the past, what would I say? I think it's been over 12 hours now, the Leaders Summit. We have discussed that in addition to virus containment, the private sector can also play an essential role in tackling the devastating socioeconomic dimensions of the crisis. But what is the most effective way to do this? CBI was in fact established for this exact purpose, to support businesses in engaging more effectively with other actors, governments, the UN, civil society, and others before, during, and after crisis. We work with private sector networks to build the resilience of both companies and societies alike. CBI supports private sector member networks, the UN system, and the broader business community. Here on this slide, you see let's say the target groups. But the basic premise is always that governments are on the driver's seat when it comes to disaster risk reduction, emergency preparedness, response, and recovery. For our member networks, we offer technical support, guidance, resources, and connections, whether to the UN system or others. At the global level, CBI works with UN partners and serves as the entry point to link the private sector to crisis response. Through our website, we also provide a lot of information, online courses, tools, webinars, and other resources to the broader business community. The CBI Secretariat is operated or managed by 2 UN entities, UNDP and OCHA. But we're supported by a number of partners, including those from the private sector. So you can see the Boston Consulting Group, the Conrad and Hilton Foundation, and the UPS Foundation. Other partners include, for example, ECHO, USAID, and IFRC. The UN Global Compact sits in the executive committee of the Connecting Business Initiative, so they are our board member. And we are increasingly working together both on the global and the local level. Of course, it goes without saying that without the generous support of these partners, none of our work would be possible. So we are absolutely grateful for their expertise, their guidance, and their resources. At the country level, CBI networks collaborate with the private sector, of course, but also, as mentioned, with governments, the UN system, and civil society. They are part of national and international coordination mechanisms. In 2019, CBI supported 19 private sector networks that you can see on the map here. Some of those are member networks, and some are hopefully becoming CBI member networks at some point. Together, these networks represent over 50,000 companies. The CBI community has been built over 4 years, and it has really played a critical role in disaster preparedness, response, and recovery in a range of crises, including storms, floods, volcanic eruptions, and more. So as the COVID-19 pandemic started, it didn't come as something completely new for our member networks. In fact, in 2019 alone, together with their partners, CBI member networks responded to a total of 31 disasters. They reached over 618,000 people through their response activities. The range of emergencies, as you see on the right on this slide, really varied quite greatly. For example, there were cyclones and a measles epidemic in Madagascar, earthquakes and typhoons in the Philippines, and the Easter Sunday attack in Sri Lanka. In terms of disaster recovery, our networks mobilized 116 companies and reached over 38,000 people. It is also worth noting that in addition to response and recovery activities, our member networks are constantly engaging in disaster risk reduction and preparedness, whether by providing guidance or, for example, participating in simulation exercises with other stakeholders. In response to COVID-19, CBI is very aligned with the global efforts to engage the private sector in supporting the 3 UN global plans and frameworks, as you see on this slide. Our focus is on supporting the health response, strengthening crisis management, and addressing critical socioeconomic impacts. Working with the CBI networks, we contribute to crisis response through the 4 categories that you see on the left of this slide. We focus on risk containment and mitigation in communities, communications and public outreach. So we, for example, have a masterclass series for the member networks on communicating in crisis. We also look at economic impact and business continuity, and there are a number of tools that our member networks have also developed in this area. And we also look at advocacy and policy dialogue. We have provided grants to 8 of our networks to also work in these areas, together with the government and the UN system. At the global level, CBI co-developed the UN Business Guide with the UN Global Compact, and that is available on our website, but also the UN Global Compact website. We also created an emergency page to share information, updates, tools, and other resources that you see a few examples on the right-hand side. All of these are available on the emergency page of the CBI online portal. We regularly also organize thematic webinars with the private sector. For instance, we recently hosted 2 webinars, one on SME impact assessments, and the other one on preparing and responding to multi-hazard scenarios, or in other words, what is it like to prepare for and respond to a natural disaster during COVID-19? You may have joined our earlier sessions today, where these 2 networks, PDRF and APAD Sri Lanka, presented their work. There is no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented, but many of our member networks, including these 2, have responded to health crises in the past. And in doing so, again, this is not something that they're inventing. This is not something that they have to start from scratch. They already had the connections with the government, with the private sector, with the civil society and others, so they can build on that existing relationship to also now respond to COVID-19. For example, in Mexico, Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Madagascar, all of them are working alongside their governments and the UN system to exchange information, but also mobilize private sector resources to the response and recovery efforts. One of the examples is PDRF, and as you may have heard, they raised over $30 million to distribute grocery store vouchers to the urban poor in the Metro Manila area. They have reached 7.6 million families with this effort. Another network, APAT Sri Lanka, they teamed up with HSBC to locally produce PPEs for frontline workers. But what's quite significant, in addition, of course, to having that local production, is that they're really looking at how they can create an export market for the PPEs produced in Sri Lanka. Vanuatu, again, was then the first country in the world to respond to a natural disaster during COVID-19 lockdown. In April, Tropical Cyclone Harold, a Category 5 cyclone, absolutely destroyed the country. You can see a picture here on the bottom left of what it looked like. The CBI member network in the country, the Vanuatu Business Resilience Council, provided a coordination mechanism for the private sector to engage with government and other partners to address the double emergencies. They activated their preparedness measures, including telecommunications teams to reconnect the islands after the cyclone, as well as shipping and logistics for relief and recovery efforts. They also conducted aerial, ground, and marine assessments to further plan the next steps. Working with their private sector partners, the Vanuatu Business Resilience Council supplied 35 tons of food and non-food items to over 1,000 remote coastal households. So there is increasing evidence that companies acting together can really make a big difference in disaster management. And we're not just talking about philanthropy. Local private sector companies and networks are essential part of the communities in which they operate. In fact, the private sector is often among the first responders in any given crisis. Clearly, the local businesses have the interest, they have the resources, the capabilities to help societies better prepare, but also respond and recover faster when something has happened. So here are a couple of things you can do if you're interested in the Connecting Business Initiative and how to get engaged. You can connect with the community or even help create, support, or participate in one of our CBI member networks. You can also contribute valuable information, knowledge, share ideas on disaster management with us. Last year, more than 60,000 people from 176 countries visited our information portal. So we definitely welcome your contributions as well. It goes without saying that financial and in-kind resources are critical for organizations to keep going. So yes, we would also appreciate those. But last but not least, we also want to highlight the importance of advocacy. Last year, 35 million people across the world were reached through our media efforts. Your support in advocating for the private sector's role in disaster management, but also the importance of the work that the Connecting Business Initiative and the member networks do would be greatly beneficial. Now I'm going to close by saying that if you want to learn more about CBI and our networks, please take some time to review the materials that we have shared in the pavilion. There are a lot of reports, tools, newsletters, and videos that you might find interesting. You can also visit our website, connectingbusiness.org, or follow us on Twitter, or you can go to our YouTube channel, where we have a number of videos, not only from us, but from our partners and member networks. Two of our networks spoke earlier today, as I mentioned, the Philippines and Sri Lanka. But if you missed those, don't worry, you all still have an opportunity to join two other sessions from our networks. Turkey and Madagascar will be presenting their work later today. In addition, we will host two sessions, one on responding to natural hazards during COVID-19, and another one on COVID-19 recovery at 7 and 8 a.m. EST, respectively. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions in the chat box, or get in touch with me or any of my colleagues through the one-on-one function. Thank you so much.